It's just so sad to see how the death toll continues to rise. More than 200 people dead at this point.
And so many people still missing. At last count, I believe it was a few hundred still that are unaccounted for. Family members are trying to find these people, get any information that they can, but just continuously seeing the pictures, the images, the videos there, especially in North Carolina, where those small towns were just completely wiped out. It's tough to look at that.
Yeah, and when you don't have that line of communication, I remember what that felt like after Ian, even locally here. So a very scary situation still in North Carolina this morning. But hurricane season, of course, still not over. We are looking at chances now increased in the Gulf to just 40% here. So not seeing a high chance for development, but at least a medium chance now in the eastern Gulf that we could see some gradual tropical or even subtropical development over the next 7 days. Regardless, at this point, we are still looking at a heavy rainmaker here. So even if this is a disorganized, broad system, starting Sunday through Wednesday, we are still going to be impacted by it. So we're still looking at rounds of heavy rain. If we did see a name, we would be looking at the next name, Milton, but again, not necessarily seeing a high chance for that. And at this point, we should be focusing on the impacts, which begin in just a few days. So a wet weekend forecast, but you're not going to really notice the impacts today or into tomorrow. Our typical forecast. This is Sunday night, though, heading into the second half of Sunday, and then look at how saturated we are still across southwest Florida heading into Monday, Tuesday, and even into Wednesday. We're finally starting to see some dry air work on in, but it won't be until closer to the end of the next week. The rainfall potential still holds this morning at 5 to 7 inches along the coast, 3 to 5 inches inland. A lot of rain, over double our monthly rainfall, and this is the only disturbance out there that poses any sort of threat to Florida. We do have major category now 4 Hurricane Kirk in the eastern Atlantic and Tropical Storm Leslie expected to become a hurricane, both of which will be tracking eventually to the north away from the U.S. and eventually dissipating, so no threat to land. At this point in hurricane season, we've now got 12 named storms. We've had 7 hurricanes, 3 major, thanks to Kirk reaching that major status here. At this point in hurricane season, we're actually pretty on par with an average season, but we still have about those last 2 months to go. So still on track to likely see this play out as a hyperactive above average season. Locally today, you can bet on more rounds of storms, especially if you live close to the coast. Just like we saw yesterday, our pattern holds some pop-up showers around 1, 2 o'clock, scattered storms building and then tracking toward our coastal communities, heavy rain into your Friday night plans. Have that umbrella ready to go for late evening outdoor plans, and then starting to see rain coverage winding down around 10, 11 p.m. So we'll be looking at overnight lows into the 70s and temperatures bouncing back to the 90s again today over really the early afternoon into tomorrow as well. Back to the 90s we go, and look at how low temperatures get because of all the clouds and storms ramping up starting Sunday. We're down to the mid 80s and mornings down into the mid 70s with pretty high storm coverage until finally we see improvements on Thursday. A whole lot of rain. I mean, this is, of course, enhanced by this tropical disturbance. Now, disorganized showers and storms in the Gulf still at a 40% chance to show signs of actual development into maybe a tropical depression. But at this point here, you need to get ready for that rainfall and flooding threat, because this is going to happen regardless of if we see a named storm or not. 5 to 7 inches of rain along the coast. This is over the next week, and then 3 to 5 inland. This is a lot of rain for our area that is already so saturated. But the good news is this is not going to be a wind event. So you got to focus on the rain and that flooding potential. But taking you through the wind gusts, sustained winds, of course, even lower throughout the day today and into tomorrow, unless we're seeing a thunderstorm. We're, of course, locally going to see some pretty high gusts. We are just looking at steady conditions, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds, very manageable schedule, even into Sunday when really the rain ramps up, and into Monday, Tuesday, we are still seeing winds at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. So mainly just a very dreary, wet stretch, a multi-day rain event. In the meantime, today, live Doppler radar out the door on this Friday. Sweeping clear. You don't have to worry about the rain quite yet. I would go ahead and grab that umbrella again for later today. Temperatures are going to be heading to the low 90s. A dry morning, but rounds of rain this afternoon, not associated with the tropics quite yet, but our just usual rainy season pattern with the sea breeze storms. So we saw this yesterday. We're seeing it again today. So it's going to be the same spots that are targeted for these showers. Initially, some pop-up rain and a few showers around 1, and then starting to see scattered storms building, impacting your Friday night. So heading into around 5, 6 o'clock, that evening commute will be pretty soggy, particularly west of I-75, and then rounds of heavy rain and even some lingering storms along the coast into around sunset. After about 10, 11 p.m., some of those storms winding down, and we will dry out overnight. And I gotta say, tomorrow actually still looks really, really nice. It's not a washout of a weekend. It's just beginning on Sunday. Tonight we'll be down into the mid-70s, and then into tomorrow morning, beautiful. You can still salvage a lot of your weekend. Heading into Saturday, temperatures will still be in the low 90s. And one pro of all of the clouds and the rain we're going to see is look at temperatures on Sunday, the mid-80s. And we will see temperatures down into the mid-80s all the way through Tuesday, Wednesday, even into Thursday, starting to see conditions improve with drier air really working back into the forecast heading into the end of next week. In the meantime, today and tomorrow, back to the low 90s we go, and mornings in the 70s. So Sunday night all the way through mainly Wednesday, use a lot of caution. Avoid flooded roadways. We are likely to see some areas of flooding across Southwest Florida into early next week.
NBC2